Presently, at canoeing or canvas-back, she strolled up to my chair and sank down, tweedily, weightily on its arm, inundating me with the perfume my first wife had used. "Would his lordship like to spend the fall here?" she asked, pointing with her little finger at an autumn view in a conservative eastern state. "Why?" very distinctly and slowly. She shrugged. Probably Harold used to take a vacation at that time. Open season. Conditional reflex on her part. "I think I know where that is," she said, still pointing. "There is a hotel, I remember. Enchanted Hunters. Quaint, isn't it? And the food is a dream, and nobody bothers anybody." She rubbed her cheek against my temple. Valeria soon got over that. "Is there anything special you would like for dinner, dear? John and Jean will drop in later," I answered with a grunt. She kissed me on my underlip, and brightly saying she would bake a cake, a tradition subsisted from my lodging days that I adored her cakes, left me to my idleness. Carefully putting down the open book where she had set it, it attempted to send forth a rotation of waves, but an inserted pencil stopped the pages. I checked the hiding place of the key. Rather self-consciously it lay under the old expensive safety razor I had used before she bought me a much better and cheaper one. Was it the perfect hiding place, there, under that razor, in the groove of its velvet-lined case? The case lay in a small trunk where I kept various business papers. Could I improve upon this? Remarkable how difficult it is to conceal things, especially when one's wife keeps monkeying with the furniture. I think it was exactly a week after our last swim that the noon mail brought a reply from the second Miss Phelan. The lady wrote she had just returned to St. Algebra from her sister's funeral. Euphemia had never been the same after breaking that hip. As to the matter of Mrs. Humbert's daughter, she wished to report that it was too late to enroll her this year, but that she, the surviving Phelan, was practically certain that if Mr. and Mrs. Humbert brought Dolores over in January, her admittance might be arranged. Next day, after lunch, I went to see our doctor, a friendly fellow whose perfect bedside manner and complete reliance on a few patented drugs adequately masked his ignorance of and indifference to medical science. The fact that Lowe would have to come back to Ramsdale was a treasure of anticipation. For this event, I wanted to be fully prepared. I had in fact begun my campaign earlier, before Charlotte made that cruel decision of hers. I had to be sure when my lovely child arrived, that very night and then night after night, until St. Algebra took her away from me, I would possess the means of putting two creatures to sleep so thoroughly that neither sound nor touch should rouse them. Throughout most of July I had been experimenting with various sleeping powders, trying them out on Charlotte, a great taker of pills. The last dose I had given her, she thought it was a tablet of mild bromides to anoint her nerves, had knocked her out for 4 solid hours. I had put the radio at full blast. I had blazed in her face an Olyspos-like flashlight. I had pushed her, pinched her, prodded her, and nothing had disturbed the rhythm of her calm and powerful breathing. However, when I had done such a simple thing as kiss her, she had awakened at once, as fresh and strong as an octopus. I barely escaped. This would not do, I thought. Had to get something still safer. At first Dr. Byron did not seem to believe me when I said his last prescription was no match for my insomnia. He suggested I try again, and for a moment diverted my attention by showing me photographs of his family. He had a fascinating child at Dolly's age, but I saw through his tricks and insisted he prescribed the mightiest pill extant. He suggested I play golf, but finally agreed to give me something that he said would really work. And going to a cabinet, he produced a vial of violet-blue capsules banded with dark purple at one end, which, he said, had just been placed on the market and were intended not for neurotics, whom a draught of water could calm if properly administered, but only for great sleepless artists who had to die for a few hours in order to live for centuries. I loved to fool doctors, and though inwardly rejoicing, pocketed the pills with a sceptical shrug. Incidentally, I had had to be careful with him. Once, in another connection, a stupid lapse on my part made me mention my last sanatorium, and I thought I saw the tips of his ears twitch. Being not at all keen for Charlotte or anybody else to know that period of my past, I had hastily explained that I had once done some research among the insane for a novel. But no matter. The old rogue certainly had a sweet girline. I left in great spirits. Steering my wife's car with one finger, I contentedly rolled homeward. Ramsdale had, after all, lots of charm. The cicada's word, the avenue had been freshly watered. Smoothly, almost silkily, I turned down into our steep little street. Everything was somehow so right that day, so blue and green. I knew the sun shone because my ignition key was reflected in the windshield. And I knew it was exactly 3:30 because the nurse who came to massage Miss Opposite every afternoon was tripping down the narrow sidewalk in her white stockings and shoes. As usual, Junk's hysterical setter attacked me as I rolled downhill, and as usual, the local paper was lying on the porch where it had just been hurled by Kenny. The day before, I had ended the regime of aloofness I had imposed upon myself, and now uttered a cheerful homecoming call as I opened the door of the living room. With her cream-white nape and bronze bun to me, wearing the yellow blouse and maroon slacks she had on when I first met her, Charlotte sat at the corner bureau writing a letter. My hand still on the doorknob, I repeated my hearty cry. Her writing hand stopped. She sat still for a moment. Then she slowly turned in her chair and rested her elbow on its curved back. Her face, disfigured by her emotion, was not a pretty sight, as she stared at my legs and said, "The Hayes woman, the big bitch, the old cat, the obnoxious mama, the old stupid Hayes is no longer your dupe. She..." My fair accuser stopped, swallowing her venom and her tears. "Whatever Humbert said or attempted to say is inessential," she went on. "You're a monster. You're a detestable, abominable, criminal fraud. If you come near, I'll scream out the window. Get back."